Hi, this is John Mulligan with Action Coach, and today I'm joined with Michael Sousa of Service Pro Lock. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, thanks for having me, John.
Hey, absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, why don't we just start? Why don't you give me a little bit of background about you and your company and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Okay, so a, I own a locksmith business. I started in working in a locksmith basically straight out of high school in 2001. That was in California, and 8 years later, I branched out onto my own. Started a business in 2009 of the same name. That was in California, where we did commercial, residential, and automotive locksmith work. Um, and I recently sold that business, moved to Florida, and started this business a couple of years ago, um, of this Service Pro Locksmith as well, and just getting this one going off the ground and learning all the different things. Beginning a business from '09, it's a little different than than what you got to do today to have a successful.
Yeah, so what are some of the things that you've seen that have changed over time?
It's mostly the marketing
Mhm.
end of it. Before I was able to just put a basically an ad in the yellow book in the yellow pages, which
Uh-huh.
doesn't exist anymore, and
Right.
that was kind of a one-time set it and forget it deal. Once a year, you got to redo that ad, and then obviously there's other little things you could do, but now it's all about you know online presence, social media, and all those sorts of things. So it's kind of a new world for me as far as, business wise, marketing business.
Absolutely. And you're in BNI, right? I know you're the president of
Yes,
BNI
sir.
Success
Yes.
Alliance. How's that going for you?
That's going good. One thing that I know that I knew works is BNI. I had been in a chapter in California with the other business as well, and um, it was uh, it was good for me. And I knew that coming to a new state where I didn't have any connections, that the first thing I wanted to do was find a BNI chapter to join, and that's literally the first thing I did when I once I got the business license up and running and joined a chapter near me, and luckily it's been a great chapter, and really enjoyed the meeting, and it's been really good for me.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. So, one more question about that. How long have you been in the BNI Success Alliance?
So 3 years now, since
3 years. Okay.
2022.
And so you've already become the president. So well done.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Great. So tell me, what do you like most about the business of being a locksmith?
Um, I like the problem solving aspect of it.
Hmm.
Um, as far as like access control, so that's electrified hardware. So those are my favorite jobs to do where every door is different. It's going to require different type of hardware to be able to electrify it and use keep fobs or whatever to open the doors. And I like taking those, uh, whatever the install is. I like making the specific hardware that's going to fit that door, and discussing that with what's going to work best, not just slapping a mag lock, which is a big magnet, on a door. I like to use existing hardware. It's all different depending on what's on the door, and I like figuring
Yeah.
those
So walk me
applications.
through that a little bit. When you find a commercial customer, and they contact you, kind of what's your process that you go through to figure out what's the right product to meet their needs?
Well, a lot of times I do it off of photos, but preferably I like to be on site.
Hmm.
Look at what the existing hardware is. Is it a single door? Is it a set of double doors? Because all those things present a different challenge or hurdle you got to overcome with in respect to what type of hardware is going to need to go on those doors. So sometimes we're doing basically a fresh install, where we're not using the existing hardware, and putting on all new electrified hardware. And in other instances, they'll have like panic bars or exit devices
Hmm.
that we can convert to become electrified, instead of just replacing the whole thing. And if that's the case, we can save the customer thousands of dollars.
Sure. Yeah, good. And then, is there any job that's too big for you? What would be who's your target market basically?
Um, I wouldn't say too big because have connections that we can, bring in on jobs that are larger.
Hmm.
Um, so as far as like access control, I can do the whole system, but if it's going to be a large one, I don't really do that. I sub out a company to do the wiring. If it's say big warehouse, tall
Okay.
ceilings, I'm not interested in doing that type of work.
Yeah. Not
Uh,
much like climbing on ladders. I
but
get
we
that.
can, yeah. I mean, there's a way to do everything. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I've done jobs where for access control, I'm mostly doing the hardware end of it and
Hmm.
being hired out by alarm companies that are doing the access control
Hmm.
part of it, the wiring and the systems that run those, the panels and everything. Um, and I'm just doing the hardware. So I can those I'll do. I've done jobs with hundreds of doors.
Oh, that's perfect. And you
Yeah.
mentioned security companies and all. So who are some good referral partners for you? So, if you're in a business, what would be the type of people who you look at would have to send you jobs typically?
Yeah, so that what I mentioned, alarm companies or electrical companies that do low voltage as well.
Hmm.
And they want to get into the access control sphere. There are some IT companies that will get into that as well. Um, and I do mostly commercial work. So, commercial property management, building owners who just want to get like locks rekeyed, tenants are leaving. Um, and I do more than just the keyed locks, the hardware on the doors itself. Basically, I like to say I do everything but the door itself.
Okay.
So door closers that'll, close nice and soft and safely and close all the way. That's a big thing here in Florida with on those hot summer days, you want your doors to be closing and
Absolutely.
using that air conditioning wisely.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say is something that sets you apart from your competitors?
I would say my like what I was speaking about earlier, going with not just one size doesn't fit all when
Hmm.
it comes to locks. So I like getting specific. So when I go see a customer, even if it's for a simple rekeying of their house, say somebody moves in, they want to rekey their home, we'll basically do an audit of the existing uh, locks, and I'd recommend deadbolts on any door that doesn't have a deadbolt because that's where your security is going to be,
Hmm.
in the deadbolt, not in the keyed knob. Um, and then if and I like to find out if it's not just something as simple as rekeying, or if you get some little different requests from people. I like to find out from the customer what their goal is really,
Hmm.
because a lot of times they have this goal set in mind. They think a certain product is the solution for that, but that may not be it. There might be some other solution we could do
Right.
that's going to better fit what the customer is looking for.
Well, and on that note, I know at one point you and I were talking about deadbolts and, the strike plate. I think that's the right term. What are some mistakes that you see homeowners making when they're installing their own locks and you come back behind them and have to do an upgrade or a change or repair?
Sure. So one of the most important parts of a deadbolt on a door is going to be the strike in the jam side of things. So on the door jamb, if the exterior, that the finished part you're looking at is usually just a trim piece and a thin
Mhm.
piece of wood that's just set in with finish nails. So a lot of times people will just put in the plate and the two half-inch screws that come with it, and essentially you're only screwing into that trim plate. So uh, all the locks should be coming with, most of them will come in with a reinforcing plate that would go behind the finished plate, and with 3-inch screws that will screw into the stud if there's a stud on that wall.
Mhm.
Um, and that's where your security is going to be. I've seen doors that got kicked in and nothing was even broken other than the finished trim just popped right off.
Yep.
Um, and a burglary happened because I'm sure it wasn't even a very hard kick to kick that door open but when you have that strike reinforced the proper way, you're going to prevent those type of easy break-ins.
Yeah, that's a great tip for people. Um, so what do you find? Well, let me ask you this: how are things going overall for your business? Like, where are areas that you're going to focus on in 2026?
This year I'm going to focus on the marketing end of it.
Hmm.
So I need to get my name out um, to more people locally. Most people are doing a map search or a Google search. Those are the main ways they're finding locksmiths. So my challenge is to put more emphasis on that this year, as well as building those relationships and finding those referral partners that we were just talking about.
Sure.
Um, and that's where I got to, that's where I'm not just paying for a service like you would to get an ad on a online, but I got to build those personal relationships with people over time to be those have a longstanding referral partner.
Absolutely.
Um,
All right, we had a little technical glitch, but we're back, so we'll continue on with Mike Sousa of Service Pro Lock. All right, so if you look towards 2026, I would say what's some areas that you really want to focus on for improvement of your business this year? I think you mentioned, marketing. Is there anything else?
yeah, definitely the marketing and we more um residential
Hmm.
work. Because that's typically usually the bread and butter is, rekeying, move-ins and move-outs where we're rekeying locks. And like, with anything else, when you're doing those smaller jobs, they can always turn into repeat business or more, referrals off of that.
Right.
So,
And on that note, you mentioned, I think, potential rental properties as a good source. So people who have maybe Airbnbs, that's another thing. Talk a little bit about like how as an Airbnb owner, what kind of lock system would I want to put in place so that I can change the locks, as I get different tenants or change the access codes. How does that work?
yeah. So they're going to use electrified locks on there that they can most of the time, it depends on how big or how far they are from the property, but there are different, options where you can have keypads that you'll be able to change remotely
Mhm.
um, the codes. I would typically steer clear of having giving keys to anybody,
Hmm.
most Airbnbs, they're just going to be digital. They're going to get a keypad and that'll get you in. Once they are done with their vacation at that property, that code will no longer work and you can
Hmm.
remotely cycle in another code.
Okay.
And those can connect through the simple end Wi-Fi or, there's other ones that'll be like hardwired into through
Okay.
the internet or through different, cloud systems where they can
Yeah.
be.
Well, good. I was just thinking, I was at an Airbnb in Montreal this
Mhm.
key. They had a regular key, and it was in a lockbox that was outside, like a realtor would use. And then we had to use the keys and then
Yeah.
replace them in the lockbox. In that scenario, let's say, and I didn't, but let's say that I lost those keys.
Okay.
What would be the option? Like, how do you handle a problem like that, where all of a sudden you just have no keys to the lock, and you've got to go in there and fix it? This is where your expertise as a locksmith comes in, I assume.
Yeah, so we'd have to come to site, take that particular lock off. If it's, if it's locked up and don't have the keys, we have to gain entry into that first.
Hmm.
But yeah, we'd be able to make keys from that lock. And if the keys are lost, I obviously would recommend rekeying it and not just making an original key for the existing lock, but
Right. That makes sense.
actually
It might not have been
rekeying it,
stolen. Yeah.
doing new keys,
Hmm.
and not just because keys can get lost. That's not the only reason I would not recommend having physical keys at an Airbnb. Um, but also you don't know, anybody can go to the hardware store and get duplicates of that key made.
Absolutely.
So there's no real way to prevent that if you're just putting them out in a lockbox.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. Duplication. Yeah. So what you're saying basically is if I'm an Airbnb owner, I want digital locks and I can either program them remotely or in person, but in any way, that's the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. There are different companies that actually have sell deadbolts that would be, programmed to there's a whole there's systems out there where you can
Hmm.
actually have accounts, especially if you have multiple Airbnbs, where you can do all the scheduling of the locks along with uh the stays there and everything. So, there's systems out there that work best for that. But if you just have one Airbnb and you're in town, you can get a deadbolt, works on Wi-Fi. You don't wouldn't even
Right.
have to go out there, and you can physically change it all the time if you're manually, if you are the one taking care of those things. But
All right. Well,
uh
good.
yeah.
Well, let's see. Our time is just about up. So, Mike, tell me, what do you want everybody to know about Service Pro Locksmith and how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So we are a commercial and residential locksmith. I do not do automotive work. So we do anything from lockouts, rekeys, a whole lot of door hardware, especially on commercial end of things where we're replacing hinges, closers, door closers, automatic door closers. And then we also do the access control. So we can do high security keys as well, or the other end of access control would be the electronic hardware and key fobs, or I mean, phones. Now you can use the phone as a key these days. So,
Right.
and they can find me at serviceprolock.com, or call me at 727-589-8345. And that's our business line.
Oh, fabulous. All right. Well, thank you so much. So we've been talking to Michael Sousa of Service Pro Lock. This is John Mulligan with Action Coach, and we're in the Clearwater and Dunedin, Florida area. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, John.